You can't be serious. Just listen to yourself. Have you lost your mind? Victoria stared, bewildered at Rachel. I don't understand. You're a mother. How could you put your own daughter at risk like that, and for what? Just to keep Michael? One of you or both of you could have died in that fire. Maybe you're willing to risk your own life, but to risk your daughter burning to death? It's unthinkable. If doing whatever it takes to stay on top makes me insane and a bad mother, fine. Think whatever you want. Rachel scoffed. I know how the world really works, and I got my priorities straight years ago. I guess you didn't get the memo. You never paid attention to me anyway, so I'm not surprised you're still clueless. Victoria was speechless. She had never been close to Rachel, and she knew a significant amount of tension existed between them. But she had never seen the unhinged look in Rachel's eyes that she saw now. What happened to the girl who used to smile at her at society parties when they were growing up? Rachel rolled her eyes. Oh, knock it off. Don't act so surprised. You're naive, but not that stupid. This is what you always wanted. Michael was supposed to be mine, and you took him away because Victoria Park always gets what she wants. When you do it, it's fine, but when I put myself first, I'm a psycho evil mom. You're honestly not making sense. Victoria shook her head, exasperated. Rachel defiantly turned her head away from Victoria. I met Michael and fell in love with him first. I had no doubts, none. You told me you didn't feel anything about him at all. And yet somehow, you were the one who married him back then, not me. How did that happen? Explain that one to me. Rachel spat. Victoria blinked in surprise at the amount of venom in Rachel's voice. When you first asked me how I felt about him, we had only been on a blind date and I barely knew him. Some of us have the sense not to fall in love immediately with strangers. Victoria kept her voice measured. She remembered how Michael had pulled out all the stops to sweep her off her feet on the first blind date. They were both so young, and she didn't have the slightest idea she would be meeting Michael Johnson for dinner that night. She honestly hadn't given a second thought before first meeting him. He had a fine reputation, and she certainly found him handsome right away. But she was unable to tell if he was really interested in getting to know her. There were so many social climbers back then, Victoria mused internally. So many of the young men in that circle only cared about her family's wealth and status. She was used to the guys putting on an extravagant show for her without any sincere interest in her mind or her heart. Victoria remembered telling Rachel that she wasn't sure how she felt about Michael, and that it was the honest truth at the time. Eventually, he proved to Victoria that he was more than over-the-top gestures, but it took time. What can I say? Victoria thought. He swept me off my feet. And besides, it's not like the choice was completely up to me anyway. Rachel, you know as well as I do that our marriage wasn't entirely up to me. Victoria said out loud. Everyone's parents meddled in the engagement. And let's get one thing else clear. You never once told me how you felt about Michael. There were so many times you could have told me. So many opportunities before we got married that you could have told me your true feelings and I would have listened. Instead, you kept it hidden and just cast me as the villain instead. Rachel laughed bitterly. Oh yes, I should have just called up the #1 socialite in New York, the heiress of the powerful Park family, and said, hey, call the whole thing off and let me have your fiancé. I liked him first. Why didn't I think of that? I suppose you couldn't do that because you were already engaged to Bruno Johnson. Or did you forget that part? Victoria asked. You weren't even available when we first met on that blind date. And I had no say in that arrangement either. Rachel snorted. I had nowhere near as much influence on my own life as you did. As the eldest daughter of the Park family, you had all the power, not me. You think of yourself as this poor little caged bird, but you had no idea what it was like to long for something that someone else stole from you. Victoria shook her head. I don't understand how you can possibly still blame me. I was supposed to read your mind and solve all of your problems for you? Just admit it. You never bothered to give a second thought about my feelings while your entire relationship, from when you met until you actually fell in love, was plastered all over the papers. I couldn't get away from every detail no matter what I did. Rachel glared at Victoria with the force of years of built-up resentment. Even your engagement ring was the exact same one I wanted for myself. You took everything I wanted for yourself. Your happiness that day was torture. Victoria looked at Rachel. She had a wild, crazed look about her as she ranted on and on. Victoria thought it would be tragic if it wasn't so insulting. I had to bide my time until the Park family finally went bankrupt and you and Michael broke off your engagement, Rachel said in a low voice. Her tone took on a menacing quality, and there was fire in her eyes. I finally got my turn. Unlike you, I had to work really hard to become his wife. You have no idea what it took to win him. You'd never had to struggle in your life. I'm sorry you had a difficult path, but what does any of that have to do with me? Victoria asked incredulously. It has everything to do with you. If you hadn't married Michael all those years ago, my life would have been completely different, Rachel accused. Victoria laughed darkly. I actually pity you, Rachel. It must be awful to make your life all about a man. Laugh all you want, Victoria, Rachel said with pride. I love Michael more than you could even imagine. He is more important than anything else to me. Without him, I have nothing. You have no idea what that's like. No, I don't, Victoria agreed, and she was grateful for that. Then why did you snatch him from me again? Rachel snarled. You already left him. Why did you come back into his life? Where did you get such a twisted heart? That's not what happened, Victoria corrected. For 16 years, I happily stayed away, and he suddenly came back into my life. He even took my daughter away. I didn't ask for any of it. Oh, yes, I'm glad you brought up Olivia, Rachel cackled with rage. Your precious, perfect daughter. When she came around, our lives were ruined. You're really asking me how I have a twisted heart? That's rich, Victoria laughed. Olivia and I know how to survive. We rely on each other. I'm proud of her, not busy competing with her. Even over the 10 years that we struggled, we were happy. You were the ones who insisted on taking her away and said it was cruel not to let her go. Go on, tell me about the perfect daughter you raised in spite of all of your hardship, poor Victoria, Rachel taunted, her words dripped with hatred. It was clear Rachel would enjoy nothing more than to rip Olivia into 1,000 pieces. You hate Olivia because of how good she is. She's a teenager. You might be the most insecure, hateful person I've ever met. Victoria fired back. Go ahead and keep bragging about her. I'm used to it. Rachel snorted. Enjoy it while it lasts. Soon Michael will come back to me. Just wait. She gloated. Good luck with that. I've had enough. Victoria stood up, her patience gone. Take care of yourself, Rachel. I'm done. Victoria turned to go. I'm not done with you, you witch, Rachel bellowed. Victoria glanced back at Rachel. There was no respect left in her. Victoria had more patience with others than most, but as far as she was concerned, Rachel was a lost cause. There was no reasoning with her. Only one of us risked the safety of their own daughter for entirely selfish reasons, and it wasn't me. Good luck sleeping at night. Just then, the door to the hospital room opened, and Monica walked in excitedly holding up her phone. Mom, look at this. Monica's eyes fell on Victoria, and she stopped short. Her face went cold. You've got a lot of nerve showing up here. Haven't you caused us enough grief? You really are shameless. I was just leaving, Victoria said firmly. She would let Rachel complain to her daughter without whatever outrageous version of their conversation she wanted. Maybe it would help her calm down and come to her senses. Monica arrogantly looked down at Victoria. You're going to regret this. When my dad comes back, the first thing we'll do is make sure Olivia is gone. Both of you will be out. Victoria shook her head at Monica's embarrassing arrogance and attitude. Just like her mother Rachel, it would be laughable if it wasn't so sad. Totally at a loss, a disappointed half-smile escaped her lips. "Did I say something funny?" Monica demanded. Victoria laughed out loud and shook her head as she turned to leave. Suddenly, Monica reached out and grabbed Victoria's wrist. "I asked you a question. What were you laughing at?" Victoria's face grew serious. "Nothing, Monica." Victoria wrenched her hand away from Monica and turned to Rachel. "If I had a daughter like that, I'd be miserable all the time, too." Rachel's jaw fell to the floor. "You're one to talk," Monica shot back. "Olivia's nothing but a worthless snake who should have never been born." "Enough!" Victoria shouted. Her face was dead serious. "Say whatever you want about me, but I will not have you talk about my daughter that way. If you weren't a child, I'd—" Faster than anyone could see it coming, Monica's hand flew through the air and slapped Victoria across the face. "Don't talk down to me, you old toad. I'll teach you to—" Before Monica could say another word, the door to the room slammed open with the force of a hurricane and knocked Monica clear across the room. Monica collided against some storage cabinets with a loud crash and fell to the floor, completely stunned. Monica's phone flew out of her hand and landed with a loud crack against the tile. Victoria and Rachel's attention snapped to the doorway to see the source of the sudden blow. Fluorescent light flooded into the room from the hallway and made it harder to see who was there. Suddenly, Olivia appeared in the doorway, glaring down at Monica. Her palm was open at her side, fingers splayed out. No one knew that she had used her powers to blast Monica off her feet. Olivia stepped forward, eyes blazing with fury. She could feel the power still coursing through her, and she breathed slowly to stay in control. Olivia smirked at Monica. "Monica, where did you get the idea that you could lay a hand on my mom like that?" Olivia's voice was threatening, and she could hear Monica's pulse quicken. Olivia moved to stand protectively in front of Victoria. Monica slowly pulled herself up to sit on the floor, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Olivia could hear Monica's stunned thoughts. How did Olivia open the door hard enough to throw me across the room? Olivia seethed inside her mind. "You're lucky I didn't kill you." "Monica!" Rachel cried out. She could barely make sense of how her daughter had just flown across the room and crashed to the floor. Her go-to was always to blame Olivia, but she couldn't explain how Olivia had the strength to pull it off. Olivia soaked in the shocked looks of terror on Monica and Rachel's faces. "That's right. You should be afraid. Deep down, you know I'm dangerous." Olivia focused on Monica's thoughts. "I could rip Olivia to shreds." Monica screamed internally. "But what if she knocks me back again? She must be a lot stronger than she looks. Why does her face look like she's about to kill someone?" Olivia felt the familiar tingling running down her arm, and she felt uncontrollably ferocious. Then a hand gently touched her arm from behind. She whirled around to face Victoria. The bloodthirsty look in Olivia's eyes made Victoria shrink back. She had never seen Olivia like that before. "Olivia," Victoria said warily, "you look like you're about to tear Monica limb from limb," she thought. "What happened?" "I was running to the door and opened it a little harder than I meant to. I was really worried about you, and it looks like I was right to be," Olivia explained. "I hate lying to my mom, but explaining that I channeled all of my vengeful energy into a blast from my hand that knocked Monica off her evil butt without even physically touching her is going to get a lot more complicated than I need right now. It happened so fast, I couldn't really tell." Victoria trailed off. The door had almost flown off its hinges before walloping Monica. Olivia heard the fear in her mother's voice, and it sobered her from her vicious thoughts. Her brow relaxed. She looked at the red mark on her mother's cheek where Monica had slapped her. Rage simmered in her gut. "Are you okay, Mom?" she asked. "A little stunned, but I'll be all right." Victoria nodded. "Olivia, you horrible girl." Rachel gasped. She had finally found words after such a shock. Her gauze-covered hand shook with rage and terror. You obviously shoved the door into my daughter hard enough to send her flying across the room. No accident. End of story. Olivia ignored Rachel and continued to focus on her mother. Mom, wait for me out in the hallway. I just need to say something to Rachel and Monica. Alone. Rachel's eyes widened in fear, and she clutched at her hospital blankets. Honey, are you sure? Victoria's face showed her worry. I'll be fine. Go ahead and wait for me. Olivia squeezed her mom's hand reassuringly and gave her a small smile. Victoria hesitated, looking around the room and at Rachel and Monica's bewildered faces. She looked back at Olivia, who seemed calmer now. The hairs on the back of Victoria's neck stood on end, but she nodded at Olivia. Okay. She squeezed Olivia's hand back. Be careful. Don't worry, I will. Olivia smiled lightly at Victoria and watched her leave the room. Once her mother was gone, she slowly turned to look back at Rachel and Monica. She smiled sweetly at them in a way that gave them chills. Rachel motioned for Monica to hurry to her. Monica protected her face with her arms and ran to Rachel's side. They fearfully watched Olivia take a step toward them. My sincerest apologies. Olivia chuckled as she rolled up her sleeves and pulled up a chair to sit. I originally planned to pick up a fruit basket or a nice floral arrangement on my way here, but my plans didn't work out this time. Traffic, you know how it is. She waved her hand. I came all the way here to visit the tragically wounded, and I showed up empty-handed. How rude of me. Cut the act, Olivia. We know you're not here to wish us well. Monica snapped. Her knees and back ached from slamming into the cabinets and landing on the floor. Again, how did Olivia do that? It was like a giant stomped the door in. Monica gritted her teeth to stop from slapping the smug smile off of Olivia's face. I'm putting on an act? From one great actress to another, I guess. You both are really putting on quite the performance here. Olivia slowly clapped and smiled coldly. I saw the same show all over the news on TV too. Pretty convincing stuff. You guys could probably get at least an Emmy nod for Best Guest Appearance. You really are heartless, Monica sniffed. You're the one who forced us into this situation. I forced you into this? Do you think this is my fault? You both just never stop blaming your own messes on other people, do you? Olivia laughed. No need to gloat and waste all our time pretending. Rachel sneered. I know exactly why you're really here. Oh, you do you? Olivia raised her eyebrows with feigned surprise. Tell me then, why am I really here? You're here about the issues of that stupid game of yours. Rachel scoffed. You think we're responsible. Wrong. What happened with the game is Grandpa Jack's doing, Olivia said dismissively. I've known for a while. Then you just want to get some sick pleasure out of seeing us look ridiculous, Monica cried. Why would I come all the way down to the city hospital just to see you look ridiculous, when picking up any newspaper with you two all over it right now will get me the same experience? Olivia shrugged. She looked at them and shook her head. So desperate. It's sad. Yeah, right. Monica rolled her eyes, but her face turned red. Everyone says they feel bad for us. We've got everyone on our side. That must be hard for you to stomach. Sure, some of the media bought your tragic little accident, but you really think anyone with half a brain doesn't see right through your pathetic ploy? Olivia searched their minds and saw them choosing where to set the fire, far away from their own rooms. Olivia continued. Michael Johnson files to divorce his wife, and all of a sudden a fire just happens to break out in one part of the mansion that doesn't have anything of value to either of you? Monica bit her lip but did not speak. Olivia kept searching and saw that Rachel and Monica lit fires in multiple spots so that they would burn faster. Rachel grimaced and held her hands up to the flames until her hands burned just enough. Olivia shook her head in disbelief. These two really can't sink any lower. And then both of you only suffer minor injuries? How lucky for you! A blazing inferno, but you only had burns in some places and some smoke poisoning. Speaking of multiple places, fire starting in more than one spot at the same time is really strange. Usually that suggests, I don't know, that it was intentional and not an accident. Thank goodness you're both all right, though. So Michael will have to come crawling back. How can he leave his wife and daughter who just survived a fire? Olivia paused, then laughed coldly. You're both kidding yourselves. You're way out of your depth. Screw you, Monica spat. She was so angry that Olivia knew they started the fire on purpose, that she thought she might explode from humiliation. If Olivia was able to figure it out, maybe everyone else did see through our plan. Leave us, you wicked girl, Rachel cursed at Olivia. It's a good thing the doctors gave you all this burn cream because the public is going to roast you alive. Olivia grinned. Not to mention my dad's lawyers. But that's a whole other can of worms. Those details will get worked out later. Are you threatening us? Monica hissed through her teeth. She could not believe how far Olivia had them backed into a corner. But she couldn't stomach the idea of begging Olivia for her silence. Yet. Threatening you? Why does it sound like I'm threatening you? I guess you are the ones with the most experience at threatening people, so you would know. Olivia said breezily. Why don't you keep pushing me and find out? Monica and Rachel were cowed. You know, since we're just putting it all out there, I have a question that's been nagging at me for a while. Olivia tapped her fingers on the arm of her chair. Rachel and Monica shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Olivia tilted her head curiously. I've always thought it was an interesting coincidence that the Cooper family rose to prominence just as the Park family had its downfall. I mean, what are the odds, right? And you happen to be in the family that benefited while my mother's family did not? Huh. A long pause held in the air. Rachel and Monica remained stone-faced. Finally, Olivia smiled at Rachel. Since you're a lucky member of the Cooper family, maybe you can explain it to me. I'm all ears. Rachel clenched her hands into fists in spite of her burns. Olivia pretended to be waiting for an answer, but she read into Rachel's thoughts. How does Olivia know about that? It's impossible. Jack Johnson swore that no one would ever know how it worked out. Olivia blinked surprise and frowned at this piece of information. For the first time since she arrived at the hospital, she was caught off guard. Is Jack Johnson somehow responsible? Olivia already knew that the Park family's downfall had something to do with the 7 big families, but she still had not suspected Jack Johnson as the one primarily responsible, and in cooperation with the Cooper family. That man is a genius, an evil genius. Olivia thought with a mixture of shock and respect. Her father, Jack Johnson's own son, married into the Park family and formed an alliance, when all the while he was orchestrating their downfall. Was that how Rachel came into the picture too? Olivia's head swam with new questions, but her mom was waiting for her outside. Olivia stood to leave. You keep thinking about it to see if you remember anything, and let me know. I hope you both get well soon, she added sarcastically. Then again, here's a little advice. You might not want to rush out of here too soon. Recovering too quickly might seem a little suspicious, and you don't want that. Olivia smiled brightly. There's my get-well gift for you in lieu of a fruit basket. Rest up, you two. Those burns aren't going to heal themselves. You're too kind, Monica hissed through her teeth. I hope you die in a fire, Olivia heard Monica think. Olivia smiled even wider, eyes squinting pleasantly. Bye-bye now. She waved goodbye, turned around, and walked out. Monica and Rachel stared at each other in utter disbelief at what had just happened. That rat! Rachel screamed. As soon as Olivia closed the door behind her, she found Victoria pacing in the hall. She looked anxious. Mom? Olivia gently took Victoria's hand. Sorry that took longer than I thought. You weren't worrying about me, were you? Victoria smiled sheepishly. No, I trust you. Did they behave themselves? Oh, they were on very good behavior. Olivia smiled. I talked a little sense into them. That's my girl. Victoria wrapped her arm around Olivia and gave her a squeeze. They started walking toward the exit. I have an idea. I know you've gotten used to fine French dining now, but how about I make your favorite? Pork chops and mashed potatoes. Olivia's eyes lit up. That's the best idea I've heard in weeks. And know this, you could do anything the French chefs did, but they could not do Victoria Park's pork chops and mashed potatoes. That's nice of you, honey. Pork chops and mashed potatoes it is. Maybe I'll throw a baguette on there. What do you think? Victoria laughed. Olivia smiled at her mom. After all they had been through together, they were still happy. Her thoughts flashed back to throwing Monica across the hospital room. And if anyone even thinks about taking that away from us, I will make sure they pay dearly. Olivia and Victoria, weighed down by the day's tumultuous events, stepped through the door of their apartment, a sigh of relief escaping both as they entered the familiar space, a safe haven from the day's drama. The moment they settled in, the shrill tone of Olivia's cell phone sliced through the room's quiet. Glancing at the caller ID, Olivia's fatigue was momentarily eclipsed by a jolt of urgency as Ansel's name flashed on the screen. She swiped the screen to answer. Ansel, what's up? Olivia's voice was more hopeful than she intended. Miss Johnson, your father's meeting has just concluded, came Ansel's ever-calm voice from the other end. A flicker of relief passed through Olivia, and she found herself nodding, even though Ansel couldn't see her. Thank you, Ansel. Could you please tell him to come home straight away? You mean Miss Park's apartment? Ansel sought clarification, his voice a mix of professional and personal concern. Yes, straight here, Olivia confirmed, a seriousness seeping into her voice. She wanted to see her dad, to talk, to somehow fix the mess that was spilling over their lives. As she ended the call, a silent wish wove through her thoughts. If only his coming over could mean a second chance for him and Mom. But we have bigger fish to fry now, she mused internally, her mind a whirlpool of what-ifs and if-onlys. Olivia slipped the phone into her pocket and walked into the living room, sinking into the sofa. Victoria glanced at Olivia, offering a small, reassuring smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm going to start on dinner. Peeling potatoes always helps me clear my head, she said, her voice steady despite the undercurrent of fatigue. Olivia just nodded, her gaze following her mother as she disappeared into the kitchen. Alone in the living room, she reached for the remote and flicked on the television, craving the noise to fill the silence. The screen came to life, and almost immediately, Olivia's attention was snagged by the stern faces of news reporters, their voices spilling into the room with an air of somber judgment. And in the wake of such a tragic accident, questions are being raised about Michael Johnson's decision to divorce his wife, Rachel, one anchor said, his tone laced with skepticism. Olivia's fingers tightened around the remote. She channel-hopped, but the narratives was the same across every news outlet. How could a man abandon his family in such a trying time? Another reporter questioned, their expression grim as they recounted the harrowing tale of Rachel and Monica's fire. With each press of the button, the story repeated, the accident painted in increasingly tragic ways, and Michael's character scrutinized and condemned. Olivia's frustration grew with every sensationalized report, each insinuation against her father like a personal slight. She finally turned the television off, the screen going black. Olivia paced the room, her thoughts racing as she muttered to herself. If only Rachel and Monica could just disappear off the face of the earth. Could they be any more annoying? She grumbled, the words a half-whispered wish into the quiet of the apartment. Just then the door burst open, and Michael stormed in, his face etched with the same frustration that Olivia had felt. Their eyes met, and for a moment the shared exasperation seemed to form an invisible bond between them. Without a word, Michael crossed the room and enveloped Olivia in a hug. Olivia wrapped her arms around him, her own frustrations momentarily subsiding in the comfort of the embrace. "How are you holding up, Dad?" Olivia asked softly as they stepped back from the hug. Michael let out a heavy sigh, the weight of the world seemingly on his shoulders. "As well as one can when the media is having a field day with your personal life," he replied, the weariness in his voice unmistakable. "I can't escape it. Every channel, every headline, it's relentless." Olivia gave a chuckle. "Yeah, I noticed. You're the man of the hour, every hour. How does it feel to be famous?" For a fleeting second, a ghost of a smile flickered on Michael's lips, appreciating the light-hearted jab. But it quickly faded. "This isn't the kind of fame anyone would want, Liv," he said with a small shake of his head. "It's a nightmare." Olivia watched her father's face carefully, her heart sinking with each word she prepared to say. "You know, Dad, the only surefire way to stop this whole media circus is to give in," she said. "Stay married to Rachel." Michael's eyes widened. "Stay with Rachel?" he echoed, the idea so absurd it almost seemed comical. "After everything? That's ridiculous." In her mind, Olivia's thoughts raced, a jumble of emotions and realities clashing together. He can't stay with Rachel. She's toxic and manipulative. But what if that's the only way to end this nightmare? No, that can't happen. It just can't. "Yeah, it's the most extreme pity party I've ever seen," Olivia continued, trying to push her thoughts of Michael and Rachel together out of her mind. "Rachel and Monica are crying on every channel, squeezing out tears like they're auditioning for a soap opera. But Dad, I don't see another way to get this circus to stop." Michael ran a hand through his hair, his frustration palpable because he knew Olivia was right. Staying with Rachel would fix all of his problems right now. But he couldn't do that, right? "I can't believe Rachel would stoop so low," Michael muttered. "She's using the situation as leverage, playing the victim to manipulate the narrative. It's disgraceful." Olivia hesitated, her next words teetering on the edge of her lips. The thought of her father trapped in a loveless marriage for the sake of public perception was unbearable. Dad doesn't deserve this. He deserves to be happy, to be free from Rachel's clutches. Michael's resolve was clear as day when he addressed Olivia. "I won't be staying married to Rachel," he stated firmly, a tinge of resolve in his voice that Olivia hadn't heard in a long time. "I couldn't imagine staying with someone as ruthless as her. It's simply not an option." Olivia felt a wave of relief wash over her, and despite the gravity of the situation, she couldn't help but let a secret smile creep onto her lips. She quickly bit her lip, attempting to hide the glee that was bubbling up inside her. "But what are you going to do?" Olivia pressed, her curiosity piqued. Michael sighed, the weariness in his eyes betraying his inner turmoil. "Right now, I don't want to give Rachel any more of my energy," he said, his voice dropping slightly. He glanced at Olivia, a new seriousness taking over. "Our gaming company is in trouble. It seems someone has been anonymously tampering with our test servers." Michael made air quotes with his fingers to emphasize this point. "And worse, they've leaked these issues to the press. Now we've got a stream of pre-order cancellations on our hands." Olivia's eyebrows knitted together in concern. She knew about the server issues, but not the cancellations. That's not going to bode well for the beta test, she remarked, the gears turning in her mind as she considered the implications. No, it certainly won't, Michael replied, his tone matching the gravity of the situation. This has Grandpa Jack written all over it, Olivia said confidently, having had her suspicions confirmed by Rachel earlier. He's always playing chess with people's lives. Michael gave a heavy nod. I knew my father was relentless, but to sabotage our work just to claw me back to the family company? It's low, even for him. But Confluence is our family company now, Olivia reminded him, her voice full of conviction. We're a team, Dad. We'll figure this out together. At that moment, Michael looked at his daughter and saw not just the little girl he raised, but also a determined business partner. He opened his arms, and Olivia stepped into a reassuring hug. Victoria's voice carried from the kitchen doorway, breaking the momentary silence that had settled between Olivia and Michael. I think it's sweet seeing you two like this, she said with a soft smile, but dinner's ready. She gestured towards the dining area, the warm aroma of home-cooked food enveloping the room. You two need to wash up so you can sit down together. Family dinner waits for no one, not even for company CEOs or gaming geniuses. Lead the way, Mom, Olivia said, her spirits visibly lifted by the prospect of Victoria's famed pork chops and mashed potatoes. Michael echoed the sentiment, a genuine smile breaking through the weariness on his face. I can't remember the last time I had a meal that didn't come from a takeout box. Let's not keep the chef waiting. Olivia turned on the faucet, letting the water warm as she squirted soap onto her hands. She looked over at Michael, who was doing the same. How's Polly been? I've missed her so much, she said, her voice revealing a hint of longing. Michael's face softened as he dried his hands, a sheepish look crossing his features. I've been so caught up with everything, he gestured vaguely, encompassing the whirlwind of media and personal drama. I haven't been able to give her the walk she's used to. I'm sorry, Liv. Olivia shook her head, dismissing his apology with a wave of her soap-laden hand. It's okay, Dad, I get it. The media circus is a lot. She rinsed her hands, the water cascading over her fingers. I can take her for walks sometimes, share the load a bit. Michael looked grateful as he accepted the towel Victoria handed him. That would help a lot, Liv. Just be careful, all right? The media hounds are relentless, and they're not above following you around, even if it's just to walk Polly. I'll be careful, promise, Olivia assured him, and they both made their way to the dining table, where Victoria had laid out a spread that instantly made them feel like they were worlds away from their problems. As the trio sat around the dining table, the clinking of cutlery was interspersed with laughter and lighthearted banter. So, Dad, have you perfected your mashed potato recipe yet? Olivia teased, a playful glint in her eye as she took a bite. Michael chuckled, glancing at Victoria. I think I'll leave that to the expert here. My culinary skills are better suited for reservations. Victoria laughed, serving herself another helping. Oh, please, the last time you cooked, the fire department got involved. Michael feigned offense. That was one time, and we agreed never to speak of it again. Olivia joined in the laughter, enjoying the warm atmosphere. She couldn't help but notice the way Michael looked at Victoria, a softness in his eyes that spoke volumes. It mirrored her own sentiments. The joy of having her parents together was so warm to her heart. Just as Victoria was about to share another Michael cooking disaster story, a knock on the door cut through their joy like a record scratch. They all exchanged looks. Expecting anyone? Michael asked, raising an eyebrow. No, Victoria replied, setting her napkin down. I'll go see who it is. The knock sounded again, more insistent this time. Victoria cautiously approached the door, her hand hovering momentarily over the handle before pulling it open. Without warning, 3 figures barged past her, their cameras clicking incessantly as flashes filled the apartment. "We're with the New York Business Journal," one of them announced, not even pausing for breath as they began their interrogation. "Can you comment on the current status of your relationship with Michael Johnson? Are there any plans for reconciliation?" The unexpected invasion left Victoria momentarily stunned, her private space suddenly violated by these intruders. From the kitchen, Michael's protective instincts kicked in, and he pushed back his chair, ready to intervene. His face was set in a firm line, the muscles in his jaw working as he prepared to confront the unwelcome guests. However, Olivia quickly stepped in front of him, her hand pressing against his chest to halt his advance. "Dad, stay here," she insisted, her voice low but firm. "This is exactly what they want, a scene. Don't give it to them." Olivia strode confidently towards the door, her demeanor calm yet assertive, as she intercepted the path of the so-called reporters. "Enough," she commanded, her voice cutting through the questions like a knife. "No more questions." Olivia protectively stood in front of Victoria. She turned to the trio. "And which department of the New York Business Journal are you from exactly?" she inquired, her tone laced with skepticism. The 3 individuals exchanged nervous glances, their previously assertive postures deflating slightly under Olivia's gaze. "We're, from the Investigations Department," the one with the notepad stammered, but the slight tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. Olivia's eyes narrowed, her instincts telling her something wasn't right. "Please show me your press ID," Olivia said with a challenge in her eyes. She was about to expose these people for what they really were. Olivia narrowed her eyes as the reporter stepped forward with the badge in his hand. "Press ID," he said, flipping the laminated card towards her. She read the name, Jerry Rosa, but the look she gave him said she wasn't buying it. Jerry caught her skeptical gaze and straightened up, attempting a disarming smile. "I get it, skepticism comes with the territory. But trust me, Miss Johnson, I'm just here to tell it like it is." Olivia snorted lightly. "Just the truth, huh? Since when did journalists go for the truth when a scandal sells so much better?" Jerry's laugh was a quick burst, almost too loud for the quiet tension in the room. "I can see why you think that, but I assure you, I'm different. I want the public to understand Michael Johnson, the man behind the name, beyond the headlines." Olivia crossed her arms, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp as tacks. "Right, and I suppose you also want to understand him over dinner, maybe with a side of wiretapping for dessert?" Jerry's grin didn't falter, but there was a flash of something else in his eyes, a flicker of surprise, perhaps respect. "Miss Johnson, you've got quite the wit. But seriously, no wiretapes, just a few questions. People are curious." "Curiosity killed the cat, Jerry," Olivia retorted. "And in case you haven't noticed, we're not exactly in the mood for a tell-all." While Jerry spoke of truth and journalistic integrity, Olivia tapped into his thoughts. "I just need one slip-up, one juicy scandal from Michael Johnson, and it's front-page news. Who cares about the truth? It's the drama that sells," Jerry thought, a predatory gleam in his eye betraying his true intent. Olivia's internal alarm bells rang. She knew she had to be cautious, to handle this situation with the utmost care. Olivia refocused her attention to listen to Jerry as he said, "We're different, Miss Johnson, I can assure you that." "Different, huh?" Olivia's voice was laced with skepticism as she handed back the ID. "Well, Mr. Rosa, I'm not sure how different you can be if you're hunting for stories in someone's private residence." Olivia's voice was even, her stance unwavering as she addressed Jerry Rosa and his crew. "I'm going to give you one chance to leave peacefully," she stated, "or I'm calling the police." Beside her, Victoria's grip on Olivia's hand tightened, her knuckles whitening with the strain. The unexpected invasion had clearly taken its toll on her, and her eyes pleaded for an end to the confrontation. The reporters exchanged glances, their shock at Olivia's composed ultimatum evident. They had banked on hysteria, on capturing the sort of familial meltdown that would guarantee headlines. Instead, they were met with a cool-headed response that left them calculating their next move. Jerry's mind raced. The opportunity was ripe, but the risk of police involvement could mean legal trouble and a tarnished reputation. Do we push it? He wondered, his gaze darting between his colleagues. Is it worth it? Olivia's gaze didn't falter. I suggest you make your decision quickly, she added, a note of finality in her tone. The reporters knew they were at a crossroads. To leave would mean returning empty-handed, but to stay might mean a scandal of their own making. With their options dwindling and Olivia's resolve clear, they knew they had to choose wisely. Olivia's patience had reached its limit. Her fingers danced across the screen of her phone. I'm done playing games, she said, her tone icy as she met Jerry's gaze. You have 5 seconds to leave or I'm dialing. Jerry, ever the opportunist, signaled to the cameraman who quickly hoisted the camera, the red recording light blinking ominously. You don't want to do that, Jerry warned, trying to sound convincing. Think about the headlines. Teen tech genius calls cops on free press. Olivia laughed, a sound that held no humor. Free press? Do you mean free to harass people in their own homes? That's not journalism. That's just being a pest. She raised her phone, showing that she wasn't bluffing. Jerry took a step forward, trying a different tactic. Calling the police on reporters? That's not a good look for you or your father's company. It's bad PR. Olivia's expression didn't waver. Worse PR for you when the story comes out that you broke into a private residence. Now, are you leaving, or should I add pressing charges to the evening's agenda? Jerry, who had been inching toward the door, halted. I am a journalist, not some criminal. I'm here to uncover the truth, he retorted, though the conviction in his voice wavered under Olivia's scrutinizing stare. Olivia rolled her eyes at Jerry's lie. Jerry smirked, trying to regain his footing in the conversation. So tell me, Olivia, how does it feel to be the daughter of a man who is leaving his wife after such a tragic accident? Olivia crossed her arms, unfazed. Nice try, Jerry, but you're not getting a soundbite to twist out of me. It's time for you to go. Jerry took a step back, realizing this was a losing battle. You think you've won this round, but the public deserves to know what kind of man your father is, and I'll make sure they find out. Olivia laughed. My father is a great man, which is more than I can say for some. But go ahead, write whatever fiction pleases you. We both know you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Jerry's eyes narrowed, but he raised his arms in mock surrender. All right, we're leaving. But remember, the truth about Michael Johnson will come out. And when it does, I'll be there to report it. Olivia followed him to the door, opening it wide. The only truth here is that you're a terrible journalist. Jerry, if this is the best you've got, I'd start looking for a new career. As Jerry backed toward the door, he shot Olivia a parting glance filled with defiance. You think this is it? We'll be back. You haven't seen the last of us. Olivia's response was swift, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, Jerry, from your mouth to my ears. It's like you're promising me a root canal. Can't wait. With one last huff, Jerry and his crew exited, their departure as dramatic as their entrance. The door clicked shut, and Olivia couldn't help but quip to the closed door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Michael slowly made his way to the hallway. He caught Olivia's eye, and in that brief exchange, they shared an unspoken understanding of the emotional toll the evening had taken. Victoria, her composure shaken, seemed smaller somehow, her usual resilience dimmed by the night's events. The silence that filled the room was thick with words left unsaid, Seeking to recapture some semblance of the evening's earlier tranquility, Olivia gestured back toward the kitchen. Let's not let this ruin our night. Dinner's still warm. Victoria, however, shook her head slightly, her appetite vanquished by the evening's drama. You two go ahead. I think I just need a moment to myself. A shower and some rest. Olivia watched, concern etching her features as her mother retreated, the silent tremor of suppressed tears in Victoria's departure not lost on her. Michael's gaze followed. Victoria, his expression a complex mix of guilt and longing, the sight of her distress clearly a knife to his own heart. Michael's shoulders slumped as he let out a deep, weary sigh. This is all my fault, he muttered, more to himself than to Olivia. Olivia looked at her father, her heart aching to see him like this. Dad, no. She reassured him gently. This isn't on you. Rachel's the one who's out of control, not you. Michael ran a hand through his hair, a familiar gesture when he was stressed. I should have been able to handle this better, to keep it from blowing up into the circus it's become. Olivia stepped closer, her voice firm with conviction. There was nothing you could have done differently. Rachel is unpredictable. You can't blame yourself for her actions. For a moment, Michael was silent, his eyes lost in thought, as if scanning the depths of his mind for a solution that could undo the chaos. Olivia watched him closely. Suddenly, Olivia's eyes sparked with a sudden clarity, as though she'd pieced together a puzzle that had been scattered in her mind. Dad, we need to call Ansel, she stated with urgency. Michael, still reeling from the recent turmoil, looked at her, his expression a mixture of confusion and concern. Call Ansel now? Why? What are you thinking, Olivia? Do you want to sue them? The gears in Michael's mind turned as he tried to follow Olivia's train of thought. No, not sue. Olivia responded quickly, shaking her head. We need to hold a press conference, first thing tomorrow morning. Michael's face crumpled with worry. A press conference? Olivia, that could just throw you into the line of fire. You'd be opening yourself up to public scrutiny and criticism. It's not a good idea. Olivia held his gaze, her own unwavering. It's the only way to take control of the narrative, Dad. To clear our names and put an end to Rachel's manipulations. Michael hesitated, the protective father in him clashing with the businessman who knew the value of a well-played public move. Olivia, it's risky. The media, they can twist your words, make you the villain. Olivia stepped closer, her resolve as strong as steel. They can try, but we'll be honest and transparent. It's time we tell our side of the story. Michael's brows furrowed with uncertainty, lines of concern etching his forehead. This plan of yours, are you sure about it, Olivia? Olivia met his gaze with unwavering certainty, the kind that only comes when one's resolve has been tested and hardened. I'm sure, Dad. We have to be proactive. It's the only way. We'll frame the conference around the beta test, Olivia continued. We'll address the issues head-on and set the record straight. And, Olivia added, a determined glint sparkling in her eyes, make sure the New York Business Journal is there. Michael took a deep breath. After a moment, he said, All right, Olivia, I'll set it up first thing tomorrow. With a nod of resolve, Michael grabbed his coat and headed for the door, pausing only to cast a long, searching look back at his daughter. Whatever doubts lingered in his mind, he kept to himself as he stepped out into the night. Tucked in for the night, Olivia scrolled through her phone, the glow of the screen casting a soft light in the dim room. She couldn't help but check the internet, a habit that often brought more stress than relief, and tonight was no exception. Her thumb froze mid-swipe as a video popped up on her feed, a clip from the earlier confrontation with Jerry, but it was all wrong. The footage was heavily edited, portraying her and her family in an even more negative light, twisting her words and her actions into something unrecognizable. She tapped on the comments section, and she regretted it instantly. The negative comments piled up, each one a little jab at her heart. People were eating up the lies, their words harsh and judgmental. With a shake of her head, Olivia switched off her phone. This was just another obstacle now, another fire to put out. She tossed the device aside, resolving to face it head-on at the press conference tomorrow. For now, she needed sleep, and she needed her wits about her for what was to come. In a dimly lit room across town, Chris sat in front of the TV. The news flickered, showing the edited video of Olivia, spinning a story far from the truth. He leaned in, scrutinizing the footage, his instincts kicking in. This wasn't right. Someone had twisted Olivia's words, and it was painting her in a terrible light. He grabbed his phone and dialed Sven. "Hey, have you seen this video of Olivia that's going viral?" Chris asked, his voice urgent. Sven, on the other end, booted up his computer. "Give me a sec," he muttered. After a few clicks, he found the video in question. "Yeah, I see it. It's been cut to bits. Why?" Chris's voice was firm. "Can you find the original footage and recut it? Show what really happened?" There was a pause, then the sound of keys clacking. "It'll take some time, but yeah, I can do it." "Make it fast, Sven. This could get uglier by the minute," Chris urged, his gaze not leaving the screen as the reporter continued to spin lies. "You got it," Sven replied, already at work. "I'll get this done ASAP." Chris hung up, and a mixture of frustration and determination settled within him. If anyone could clear Olivia's name, it was Sven. He just hoped they weren't too late. The morning sun was barely rising, but the atmosphere outside the Confluence building was already heated. Olivia stepped out of the car, immediately met by a hurricane of flashing cameras and raised voices. Reporters from every major outlet were there, all clamoring to get a piece of her. "Miss Johnson, how do you respond to the accusations in the video?" one journalist shouted, thrusting a microphone in her direction. "The video of your altercation has gone viral. What do you have to say about your behavior?" another pressed, not giving her a moment to breathe. Olivia straightened her posture, inhaling deeply. She scanned the sea of expectant faces, all waiting for her to crumble under the pressure. But she wouldn't give them that satisfaction. "I'm here to discuss the future of our company in the beta test, not internet gossip," she replied, her voice steady and clear over the barrage of questions. "But the public has a right to know. The video has millions of views and people are calling your family the worst thing since—" Olivia raised a hand, cutting off the dramatic comparisons. "We'll address all concerns at the press conference. Thank you." Olivia did her best to hide the turmoil inside of her. She had to stay focused. Today, she had a battle to win. The conference room was abuzz with the rapid-fire click of cameras and reporters vying for Olivia's attention. As she approached the podium, her demeanor was the eye of the storm, composed and unaffected by the frenzy around her. "Miss Johnson, is it true your father is rekindling his romance with your mother after the tragic fire?" one reporter barked out, not even waiting for Olivia to settle in. Another cut across. "Olivia, what's your comment on the video that's gone viral? The public is in an uproar." "Miss Johnson, can you confirm the rumors that Confluence is pulling out from the gaming market after the beta test fiasco?" The questions rained down like a relentless storm, each one loaded with assumptions and seeking the sensational. Olivia glanced over the sea of eager faces, microphones thrust forward like swords into a battle. "Will your family's company survive this PR nightmare, Miss Johnson? Is it true that your devices are behind the devastating fire? Olivia, do you think your father's actions are justified? Miss Johnson, how can your father just abandon Rachel after such a tragedy?" shouted a reporter from the back, notepad at the ready. Olivia briefly frowned at the questions of her father's character. Olivia's frown was fleeting, masked immediately by her practiced poise. She never let the reporters see her ruffled. Instead, her attention was drawn to the subtle vibration of her phone. Glancing down, she saw Millie's message, a photo of herself, Olivia, at this very press conference. With a theatrical lilt of her eyebrow, she addressed the room. "You all work incredibly fast," she quipped, holding up her phone for the room to see Millie's snapshot. "But really, next time, ask for my good side, will you?" Her casual dismissal of the photo seemed to rattle the reporters. They exchanged glances, not used to their subject flipping the script and critiquing their work. "Miss Johnson, this isn't a joke. The public has a right to know," a flustered journalist began, only to be cut off by Olivia's light chuckle. "Of course the public has a right to know," she conceded, her voice dripping with a mix of sarcasm and charm that left the room silent for a beat. "But they also have a right to factual information, don't you think?" The reporters, anticipating a meltdown, or at least a hint of scandalized defensiveness, were instead met with Olivia's unshakable calm, and it irked them to no end. Olivia's eyes scanned the crowd as she tuned into the thoughts swirling around the room. The first reporter's mind was clear, a single thought echoing like a mantra. "I need a scandalous twist. There has to be a skeleton in the Johnson family closet." Olivia couldn't help but smirk at the predictability of it. One reporter, a seasoned cynic with a pen poised like a predator, was almost salivating mentally. "A family feud, an affair, there's got to be some delicious dirt here." The thought was so brazenly intrusive that Olivia almost recoiled. Not far from him, a tabloid journalist was mentally crafting headlines. "Johnson family jinx, from riches to rags and scandals." It was as if ethics had been traded for the prospect of viral content. Amidst the crowd, a younger face betrayed an internal conflict. The family's drama's got to have more juice. Maybe the fire was a cover-up. What if the divorce is just a facade? The mental whispers were a cocktail of hope for a big break and a hungry audience's insatiable appetite for drama. Then there was the young intern at the back, their mind a beacon of earnest ambition. "Please let something genuine come out of this. We need real journalism." Olivia's smirk softened at the one person wanting the truth. Olivia addressed them, her tone laced with a blend of amusement and authority. "I can almost hear the gears turning, looking for that juicy angle that will make your editor salivate. But let me be clear." Her eyes swept across the room, a silent challenge in her gaze. "The Johnsons aren't a reality TV show. There's no hidden scandal or secret lovers." Ansel Parr, ever the composed assistant, observed the growing frustration among the journalists. With a calm that commanded attention, Ansel moved to the podium beside Olivia, his presence alone a signal for silence. He cast a glance over the room, his eyes momentarily meeting Olivia's before addressing the room. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," Ansel began, his voice a measured baritone that resonated through the microphone. "The press conference will commence once we have order. We ask that you hold your questions until Mrs. Johnson has delivered her statement. We will have a Q&A session afterward, where your questions will be addressed." His statement was met with a mix of reluctant nods and resigned sighs. The reporters, though hungry for scandal, settled into a tense silence, pens and cameras at the ready, as they waited for the press conference to officially begin. After Ansel stepped aside, a brief hush settled over the room. Olivia, feeling a renewed sense of control, stepped forward to the podium once more. She scanned the audience, her gaze sharp and assessing. It was then she noticed Michael, her father, entering discreetly from the back of the room. Their eyes met, and in that brief exchange, a nod from him, a slight stiffening of her posture. Silent messages were exchanged. She was ready. "Ladies and gentlemen," Olivia began, her voice steady, "thank you for your patience. I'd now like to introduce someone who needs no introduction. The CEO of Confluence Technology, my father, Michael Johnson." The crowd shifted, Camera shutters clicked, and all eyes turned to the back of the room as Michael made his way forward. As Michael approached the podium, Olivia stepped aside, giving him the space to address the reporters. Michael Johnson stood confidently at the podium, ready to redirect the narrative back to Confluence technology and away from his personal life. He cleared his throat and began. As you all know, Confluence has always been at the forefront of technological innovation, and our latest beta test is a testament to our commitment. Before he could continue, a reporter from the front row interrupted. Mr. Johnson, the public is much more interested in the recent events concerning your family. Can you comment on the status of your relationship with Rachel? Michael paused, maintaining his composure. Today we're here to talk about Confluence. The beta tests are... Yet another reporter cut in. But Mr. Johnson, the fire incident involving your daughter and ex-wife is on everyone's mind. Don't you think this affects the company's image? Michael's grip tightened around the edges of the podium. He attempted to steer the conversation back to business. Our focus is on our clients and our products. Now, as I was saying about the beta test, the interruptions continued, a barrage of personal questions about Monica and Rachel bombarding him from every angle. The flurry of inquiries became a blur as multiple reporters overlapped each other, all clamoring for a sensational quote. Michael's composed exterior began to show cracks. His forehead creased, and his voice, once steady, now wavered slightly. He glanced back at Olivia. As the room buzzed with unwelcome inquiries about Michael's personal life, Olivia leaned in close, her voice a soft but firm whisper in his ear. Dad, let me handle this. Stand back for a moment. Michael, reading the determined look in his daughter's eyes, gave a subtle nod and shifted aside, allowing Olivia to retake the podium. As Olivia stepped back up to the podium, she caught the room's attention with an assertive gesture. Ladies and gentlemen, please, she said, her voice steady and commanding. The reporters gradually fell silent, their recorders and cameras still trained on her expectant face. This press conference was called to discuss the future of Confluence technology and our exciting new game, Grudgekeeper, The Siege of the Damned. Olivia continued. If your questions are not related to this, then I kindly ask you to hold them for a more appropriate time, or... She paused, sweeping her gaze across the room. Feel free to excuse yourselves from this conference. The reporters exchanged glances, some clearly torn between the juicy details of the Johnson family drama and the potential scoop on Confluence's latest project. But Olivia's stance was unwavering, her presence at the podium solid and unshakable. We have a lot to cover today, and I assure you Grudgekeeper is a game that is going to redefine the industry. So let's keep our focus there, shall we? She flashed a confident, businesslike smile, ready to move forward with the conference's true agenda. The reporters, momentarily disarmed by Olivia's authoritative stance, exchanged murmurs among themselves. As I was saying, the reason we're here today is to discuss Grudgekeeper, The Siege of the Damned, and its upcoming release, Olivia said. We also have a separate press conference following the game's launch, where we can delve into its post-release plans and performance. She then motioned to her side, inviting the project director, a bespectacled man with a stack of notes in his hand, to join her at the podium. I'd like to introduce Evan Torres, our project director, who will give you a detailed overview of what Grudgekeeper has to offer. Evan, with a nervous glance at the sea of journalists, stepped up. His voice shook slightly as he began, but his passion for the game shone through. Thank you, Olivia. Grudgekeeper is more than just a game. It's an experience that combines rich storytelling with immersive gameplay. Our team has worked tirelessly to create a world that players can get lost in, with choices that truly matter and affect the game's outcome. The journalists, though visibly less enthusiastic without the drama they had hoped for, remained seated, their attention caught by Evan's sincerity and the intriguing visuals he presented on the screen behind him. As the presentation concluded, Evan looked out over the crowd, now somewhat intrigued by the game's potential. "We're excited to take your questions about Grudgekeeper now," Evan announced, setting aside his notes and bracing for the journalist's response. The press conference room was a minefield of tension, every reporter ready to detonate their next big headline. Olivia, now back at the podium, exuded the kind of calm that made seasoned journalists second-guess their approach. One reporter, feeling particularly emboldened, bypassed the subject of Grudgekeeper and aimed his question like an arrow at Michael's integrity. "Mr. Johnson, the public's dying to know, after the fire, how can you possibly leave your wife and daughter to rekindle with your ex-fiancé?" Michael's jaw tightened, the muscles in his face betraying the beginnings of frustration. Before he could muster a response, Olivia stepped forward, intercepting the question. Olivia fixed the reporter with a gaze that was both icy and curious. "You're quite invested in my father's personal decisions," she began, the challenge in her voice unmistakable. The reporter, a middle-aged man with a notebook at the ready, nodded earnestly. "Well, it's a matter of public interest," he replied, somewhat defensively. Olivia tilted her head, allowing a small, knowing smile to creep across her face. "Is it? Interesting, because when I did a quick search on you, I uncovered a series of social media posts by you that seem less than savory, where it seems like you went on a rather close vacation with your married neighbor. There's specifically one picture that I found so interesting, because you didn't do a good job at cropping out her face or her wedding ring. It's quite interesting, isn't it?" The room fell into a hushed silence as the reporter's confidence wavered, his earlier bravado faltering under Olivia's pointed revelation. "Shall I go on, or can we agree that everyone's personal life, including my father's, should remain personal?" Olivia's question was rhetorical, and it was clear she expected no further prying. Defeated, the reporter sat down, shaking his head. No further questions on that. The conference room crackled with anticipation as a reporter pitched a curveball at Michael. "Mr. Johnson, if you can't stand by your family, how can you stand by your company?" Michael, encouraged by Olivia's stance, didn't miss a beat. "Interesting angle," he quipped, "but you're barking up the wrong tree. We're here to chat about Confluence's strides in tech, not my personal life." The reporter, undeterred, pushed on. "But the public—" Michael cut him off with a raised hand. "You're from the nosy neighbor, aren't you? This gig is for the tech-savvy, not the gossip-hungry. I think it's time you logged off." As security approached, the reporter's defiance crescendoed into a shout. "This is censorship! What about Rachel and Monica?" His voice ricocheted off the walls as he was led away, leaving a trail of murmurs in his wake. The other reporters, like sharks to chum, swarmed with follow-up singers, each trying to snag the next viral soundbite about Monica and Rachel. They're relentless, Michael thought. Will my life ever go back to normal? As the barrage of questions continued to fly, Olivia and Michael stood side by side, a united front against the media's onslaught. "Mr. Johnson, are you seriously not worried about how it looks for a CEO to be having an affair while his wife is in the hospital?" one reporter shouted. "Olivia, did your devices really cause the fire? If so, is that malfunction related to the technical issues that have caused the terrible beta test results for Grudgekeeper? Or is this all a scam to hide a failing game?" Another chimed in, each question more accusatory than the rest. With practiced ease, Olivia brushed off the probing queries with a dismissive wave of her hand, while Michael responded with a disarming smile, neither of them allowing the reporters to see them sweat. But then a voice cut through the cacophony, sharp and clear, hitting its mark. "Miss Johnson, why are you being so selfish? How can you stand there and promote your game while Rachel and Monica lie in a hospital bed?" The room fell silent, the weight of the question hanging in the air. Olivia felt a prickling sensation at the back of her neck, the eyes of every person in the room fixed on her. For a moment, her confident facade faltered as she searched for a response. But then, in Olivia's fashion, an air of confidence came over her as she realized how to change the tune of the accusatory crowd. "Consider how I felt." Olivia's voice finally broke the silence. "You're asking me to consider Rachel and Monica's feelings while lying in a hospital bed," she continued. "But has anyone considered how a little girl felt, growing up without her father because he was pulled away?" Her question hung in the air, and she could see the shift in the reporter's eyes, the gleam of a news story angle, the personal drama of a family torn apart. "For 16 years, Olivia went on, her voice steadying as she found her rhythm, "I barely knew my father. Rachel kept him from us, from my mother and me. My childhood memories are punctuated by his absence, moments that a father should be a part of, all lost." The reporters leaned in, their earlier fervor for scandal replaced by an almost morbid fascination with this unfolding family tragedy. Pens scratched across notepads, and cameras focused intently on Olivia's face, searching for the pain behind her words. The murmurs in the room grew louder, with reporters whispering speculations about the articles they'd write, how Rachel's actions had torn Olivia's family apart. With each whisper, Olivia's smirk grew. Her narrative was taking hold, redirecting the media's scrutiny from her family to Rachel and Monica. She cleared her throat, commanding the room's attention once more. "I want to address the fire incident." She began, her voice even but with a gravity that underscored the seriousness of her statement. "A fire is a devastating event, and my heart goes out to anyone who experiences such a tragedy." The room was silent now, every reporter hanging on her words. "I wouldn't wish that on anyone, not even my worst enemy," she continued, locking eyes with various journalists around the room. "But let's consider the facts for a moment. I left the mansion weeks ago, and with it, the device in question." Olivia paused, allowing the implication of her words to sink in. "How does a device, untouched and unused for weeks, suddenly cause a fire? One would have to wonder about the timing, wouldn't they? And that's not even accounting for the fact that officials have said the fire may have been started at several points in the room simultaneously. How coincidental?" The reporters exchanged looks, their earlier certainty wobbling as Olivia's question seeded doubt. The scratching of pens on paper slowed as they processed her words, reassessing the narrative they had been so eager to sell. Olivia stood firm at the podium, her expression composed as she continued. "Let's look at some more facts," she started, her voice clear and confident. "The mansion where Rachel and Monica reside is huge, with different wings and more rooms than you can count. If one part of that place caught fire, escaping should be a cakewalk, given how massive it is." She looked around at the reporters, her expression dead serious. "It begs the question, how could anyone, let alone two people familiar with its halls, find themselves trapped?" She paused to let her words sink in, her eyes meeting those of the reporters who scribbled notes or adjusted their recorders. "I visited Rachel and Monica just yesterday," Olivia continued, her voice steady and sure. "And I can tell you, they appeared to be in good health. Certainly not like individuals who had recently been in a harrowing life-or-death situation. But obviously you know this, given all the interviews and news reports you've done with them." The reporters' murmur grew as Olivia's points began to resonate, leading them to reassess the narrative that had been fed to the public. "Let's exercise due diligence in how we report these events," Olivia concluded, her gaze sweeping across the room. "After all, journalism is about uncovering the truth, not just recounting tales." The room, now abuzz with a mixture of contemplation and curiosity, watched as Olivia maintained her composure, a testament to her credibility and the gravity of her words. As Olivia's statements hung in the air, the room buzzed with reporters talking to each other in hushed tones. It was like a mini conference happening right there. "Did you hear what Olivia just said? I mean, seriously. How could Rachel and Monica get stuck in a mansion that big?" A reporter with large glasses said, "I know, right? It just doesn't make sense. The story is getting weirder by the minute." Another reporter countered, "And honestly, it doesn't make sense for Rachel and Monica to be able to talk and do interviews if they were so close to death. I mean, healing like that does require time." A woman responded. The reporters continued to exchange theories and observations, each conversation echoing the same sentiments. Olivia, her eyes scanning the room filled with eager reporters, decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. "I know there's been a lot of chatter about that video with me and Jerry Rosa," she began, her tone purposeful. Cameras and recorders were adjusted, and reporters leaned in, ready for the next big reveal. "But I want to clarify something about that video. It may show one thing, but it doesn't capture the full story of what actually went down." The reporters exchanged intrigued glances, hanging on her every word. They had been waiting for this moment, and Olivia was about to set the record straight. "I'm ready to clear the air," Olivia declared, a hint of determination in her eyes. Olivia took a deep breath. "Okay, here's what really happened with that video. Jerry Rosa and his crew basically barged into my home." The reporters leaned in, their curiosity piqued as Olivia continued her story. "I was just having dinner with my parents after a really tough day, trying to unwind, you know?" She paused, making sure everyone was following along. "And then, out of nowhere, Jerry Rosa rushes through the door with cameras and recorders all up in our faces." Olivia's expression turned serious as she revealed the impact of Jerry Rosa's intrusion. "The thing is, their unexpected and unwanted pressing for an interview made my mom, Victoria, really unwell. It was a stressful situation, and she didn't need that kind of pressure." The reporters, their cameras and recorders poised, were now fully engrossed in Olivia's account. This was the kind of story they'd been waiting for, a mix of drama, controversy, and a hint of family tension. A hushed murmur spread through the room as reporters exchanged glances. They were getting the inside scoop on a dramatic turn of events they hadn't expected. Olivia nodded, acknowledging the rumors that had circulated. "I'm aware that Jeremy Rosa claimed I hurt him," she admitted. "But let me set the record straight. I wouldn't hurt a fly. Anyone who knows me knows I wouldn't harm anyone intentionally." In the back of Olivia's mind, she smiled at this little fib. She would never hurt an innocent person, but she was all about enacting revenge on those who deserved it. But that wasn't something she needed these reporters to know. The room was quiet as Olivia's words sank in, and then she turned her gaze toward Jerry Rosa, who was standing amidst the other reporters. When their eyes met, Jerry Rosa appeared visibly nervous, shifting uncomfortably. With a determined look on her face, Olivia addressed the entire gathering of reporters. "I want you all to see the truth with your own eyes," she declared. Stepping aside, Olivia directed their attention to a large screen. A video began to play, showing the chaotic scene of Olivia and her mom being crowded by Jerry Rosa and his team inside their own home. The footage depicted the intrusion and the tense atmosphere that had unfolded during the unexpected visit. As the video played on the large screen, a hushed silence fell over the room. Reporters watched intently, their expressions shifting from curiosity to shock. Whispers and murmurs started to spread like wildfire among the assembled journalists. "I can't believe this," one reporter muttered to their colleague, eyes glued to the screen. "Jerry Rosa looks aggressive, way more than I expected." Another reporter chimed in. "Yeah, this changes everything. We've been fed a completely different story." But just as the tension in the room reached its peak, the video suddenly stopped. Olivia stepped forward, her expression now more determined than ever. "I know you must be wondering what happened next," Olivia began, her voice carrying the weight of the moment. "But I'm sorry to say you didn't get to see the full truth. What you witnessed here was just the tip of the iceberg. Jerry Rosa and his team deliberately destroyed the rest of the footage." A collective gasp swept through the room. Reporters were stunned, their faces a mix of disbelief and outrage. Olivia had successfully kept them on the edge of their seats, and now the revelation of the destroyed evidence left them clamoring for more. Olivia's eyes were locked on the crowd. That's right. They erased crucial moments that would have given you the complete picture. I want you all to understand that what you've seen here is just a fraction of what really happened that day. As Olivia dropped the bombshell about the destroyed footage, the room was filled with gasps of shock and disbelief. Reporters exchanged wide-eyed glances, the revelation sinking in. Olivia continued with unwavering determination. What Jerry Rosa and his team did, it's not journalism. It's a crime, she declared firmly. Suddenly, the room's atmosphere shifted dramatically. Police officers entered and approached Jerry Rosa, placing him under arrest. The other reporters watched in stunned silence as Jerry Rosa was escorted out of the room, his face a mix of anger and humiliation. Olivia didn't miss a beat, her words cutting through the tension. This incident serves as a stark reminder that the truth can be twisted and manipulated, she cautioned, her gaze sweeping across the room. She leaned in closer to the reporters, her tone earnest. Because the truth is so fragile, we all need to be careful with how we talk about the private life of my father and Confluence's CEO, Michael Johnson. The reporters nodded in agreement, afraid of becoming the next Jerry Rosa. Olivia straightened up and addressed the room with renewed energy. Now that we've cleared the air about that situation, are you all ready to talk about Grudgekeeper, like we're here to do? Meanwhile, across town, Rachel lay in her hospital bed, her eyes glued to the television screen broadcasting Olivia's press conference. Her face twisted with anger as she witnessed the unfolding events. Oh, fantastic, Rachel sneered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She reached over and switched off the television, tossing the remote across the room. Talking to herself, Rachel continued, Look at Olivia, the master manipulator, turning the media into her personal cheerleaders. Classic move. Her frustration grew with each passing thought. She's always had a knack for spinning things, but this is next-level deception. Rachel clenched her fists, her contempt for Olivia reaching new heights. I've never despised her more than I do right now, she muttered, the bitterness in her words echoing through the quiet hospital room. I want to wring her little neck. From his own oak-paneled office in the comfort of the Johnson mansion, Jack Johnson sat and watched the press conference Olivia had just held, addressing the rumors surrounding Michael. At the conclusion of the conference, Jack slammed his fist on his desk, startling the maid who had just brought in his afternoon tea. She quickly excused herself, knowing Jack Johnson was notorious for his anger when things didn't go exactly his way. He had assumed that Michael would have come crawling back to the Johnson family company, with his tail between his legs months ago. But so far, he was no closer to seeing this become a reality. It's all that damn girl's fault, Jack thought to himself, glaring at the screen as he watched Olivia smile smugly at the reporter she had just ousted. That bastard child, and born of a park no less. I should have known she would betray the family. Just then, a quiet knock sounded on the door in front of Jack. What? The door opened carefully, and a mild-mannered butler poked his head cautiously into the room. Sir, you asked me to remind you about your meeting with the board this afternoon? Cancel it, Jack yelled in his gravely voice, his eyes still glued to the screen in front of him. Very well, sir. The butler hurried off, eager to have an excuse to leave the old man when he was in such a foul mood. Jack Johnson immediately ended the screen recording he had been taking of the press conference and opened his email. He began to compose an email to Bruno, attaching the file. He hoped this would light a fire under Bruno to get him back to the States before it was too late. Back at Confluence, Olivia was patting herself on the back for having been able to successfully take the heat off Michael and Victoria, at least for the moment. She knew these reporters were ruthless, and it was only a matter of time before they dug something else up on her and her parents. She also knew there was no way Rachel nor Jack Johnson would let this matter go easily. She figured they'd both been tuned in for the press conference and were most likely scheming up their next attack that very moment. But there was nothing she could do about that now. Olivia pulled out her phone to go over her schedule for the rest of the day. There was still a lot of work to be done with the game about to go into beta testing. Olivia wanted to make sure everything went smoothly, so that they would have a successful launch. Michael entered the room then, grinning ear to ear. "You handled that entire press conference beautifully, Liv." Olivia beamed at her father. "Thanks, Dad." No matter how old she got, or how close she was to Michael, she still loved to receive praise from him. In her past life, she had worked so hard to make him proud, and every time Rachel or Monica found a way to ruin it for her and make her look like the bad guy. It was nice to have it the other way around for a change. "You've been through a lot today. Why don't you let Ansel take you home?" Michael pulled out his phone and began composing a text message to his assistant. "I can even order some takeout for you and your mother, so dinner is ready when you get there." "But I can't leave yet. There's still so much to do before the game launches." Olivia's schedule was packed, and just the idea of taking a break was stressing her out. "I have to make sure it all goes off without a hitch." "The game launch is going to go fantastically." Michael sounded so confident, which eased Olivia only slightly. "But it'll only be great if you aren't passing out from exhaustion at the release event. Go home now and take it easy. You can get started again first thing in the morning." Olivia smiled. "All right, fine. I'll let Ansel take me home." Even though they worked together, it was nice when Michael felt like just a normal dad. Her mind went to Jack Johnson. She knew Michael had never had a good relationship with his own father, and Olivia imagined that Jack Johnson never would have allowed Michael to take a break from his work, let alone encourage it. Before leaving, Olivia paused in front of her father. "You know, Dad, I don't think Grandpa is done messing with the company. Maybe we should be on the lookout in case he tries something else." Michael sighed. "I know. I've thought of that." He forced a smile at Olivia. Just because Michael had had to deal with that stubborn man his entire life didn't mean Olivia had to. He wanted to protect her from Jack Johnson and anyone else in the Johnson family who might wish his daughter ill. Just then, Ansel Parr appeared in the doorway. Olivia looked at Michael and smiled. "I guess I'll see you later." "See you, sweetheart." Michael waited until Olivia and Ansel were down the hall to let his smile fall. He really was nervous about what his own father might have up his sleeve. In the car, Olivia sat in the back while Ansel focused on the road. She smiled to herself as she watched the city rush by through the windows. Although she was still a little bit jet-lagged, it felt good to be home, back in her own city, with her own people, and she was proud of the way she had handled everything today. Hopefully, the game launch would go just as well for her as the press conference had. As the number of streets climbed higher and higher, Olivia realized they were only minutes from home. She pulled out her phone and began to scroll through her contacts. Her finger landed on a name, and she held the phone up to her ear. She wanted to make this call before she was with her mother. She didn't need her to even think about their issues with the press anymore. "Hey, Sven." Olivia spoke quietly into the phone. Although she trusted Ansel, there were some things she would rather keep from her father, and she knew Ansel's loyalty lay with him. "I just wanted to say thank you for sending me that video. You have no idea how much it helped today." On the other side of town, Sven sat on one of the matching leather couches in Chris's off-campus apartment. He spoke to Olivia on the phone while watching Chris play darts across the room, muttering curse words under his breath every time he missed the target. He had been in a terrible mood since they arrived back from Paris, and Sven had one guess as to why. You don't need to thank me. It was really no problem at all. Sven answered on the phone, turning his head slightly so as not to draw any attention from Chris. By the way, I saw you on TV. You did a great job with that press conference. Those reporters can be ruthless. It was nice to see them put in their place for once. Despite Sven's best efforts, Chris overheard who he was talking to and angrily threw another dart. This one ricocheted off the board and went flying back at Chris, who quickly jumped out of the way. Normally, Chris had great aim, but whenever he let his feelings get in the way, it showed. Sven raised his eyebrows in concern when he saw how erratically his friend was acting. Anyways, I should go, but I'm happy to help anytime, you know that. Sven said his goodbyes to Olivia, then stood and approached Chris. Hey, buddy, you doing okay? Sven leaned against the back of an armchair as he watched Chris throw another dart, missing the target once again. Peachy, Chris answered through gritted teeth. He was starting to get more and more frustrated by this game of darts. But the more frustrated he got, the worse his aim was. It was becoming a vicious cycle. So that was Olivia on the phone? Chris threw another dart, harder this time, and it landed right in the bullseye. He smiled smugly to himself. She wanted to thank me for the video, Sven continued, but Chris just kept playing his darts, doing his best to ignore Sven. Why is it I was the one to send her the video? Sven arched an eyebrow at Chris. You're the one who got the right edit. Just made sense this way. Chris clenched his jaw and threw the final dart in his hand. It almost made it to the bullseye, but it was thrown with such force it ended up knocking out the current dart instead. Damn it, Chris shouted. Sven sighed, bending down to help Chris pick up the failed darts. You know this is ridiculous, right? Why don't you just tell her how you really feel? I'm gonna get a drink. Do you want anything? Chris stood from where he collected darts and made his way towards the kitchen. You bend over backward to protect this girl. You make everyone around you get involved, sometimes involving less than legal activities. And yet you can't tell her you like her? Sven shouted across the apartment. Chris returned with a can of beer, cracking it open casually as he continued to ignore Sven. You're an adult, Chris. Act like one. Sven was beginning to grow frustrated, constantly being forced to watch the Olivia and Chris love saga. It was about time he spoke up. Chris snorted. Look who's talking. He took a sip of his beer, egging Sven on. What is that supposed to mean? Sven stood now, adopting a defensive posture. Like you ever told Vera how you feel? Chris accused. That's completely different. Sven sputtered. Vera's not my fiancé. Chris was just about to open his mouth to retort when suddenly Sven's phone dinged with an alert. He grabbed for it, his face falling as he read the small screen. Oh shit, he muttered. What is it? Chris rushed over to Sven to get a glance at what he was reading. 9-car pileup in front of Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris just now. Sven held up his phone for Chris to see. Police suspect foul play. There was bullet marks found on the sides of 2 of the vehicles. Chris grabbed the phone out of Sven's hand, reading through the article furiously. This was her. This was meant for Olivia. His voice came out as practically a whisper. She was smart to come back yesterday. Sven let out a sigh of relief. Call our contacts in Paris. As soon as we find out who is behind this, we make sure they pay. Chris demanded. Copy that. Sven hesitated a moment. But you know this is exactly what I was just trying to talk to you about. You going out of your way for Olivia, but unable to express your real feelings. Just go, Chris shouted. Sven rolled his eyes, grabbing his phone back from Chris's hands. He began dialing a number, then walked out of the room, waiting for the other end to answer. Chris walked over to one of the other leather chairs in the common area and sat, stunned. He couldn't believe that once again Olivia had been so close to death. He didn't know what he would do if he ever lost her. But why couldn't he just tell her that? Why did he have to say all those horrible things to her when he had been drunk? Even if he wanted to take Sven's advice and tell her how he really felt, how could he ever face her again after what he said? He put his head in his hands. There was no way Olivia would ever forgive him now. Back in Paris, the hospital Olivia had just visited herself 2 days prior was buzzing with activity. All of the victims of the 9-car pileup outside Charles de Gaulle Airport had been immediately transported to the hospital, and nurses and doctors were running around frantically, trying to tend to all of them. Since many of those affected by the crash had been from esteemed families, the doctors also had to be careful in which order they treated the patients. Although they would never really value one life over another, they knew if they pissed off the wrong family, they could easily lose some of their biggest yearly donations. After all, there was a wing in the hospital donated by the Perry family after they had made the move to Paris. They wanted to ensure their own family got top priority if and when they were ever admitted to the hospital. And having your name on an entire wing was a pretty good way to secure that. One such patient, who was well known amongst the Paris elite, and because of which had been treated fairly rapidly, was Bruno Johnson. Bruno sat up in his bed in one of the many VIP suites in the hospital, his head wrapped in bandages and multiple stitches along one side of his body. In front of him, he held his laptop computer open and cursed at the screen. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it all to hell! He shouted at the computer as he scrolled. He had just received the email from Jack Johnson, informing him about the press conference Olivia had held back in New York. How the hell had she gotten back so quickly? Bruno racked his brain. She was supposed to fly out today. Clearly, he had been tricked by the teenage girl. At least he wasn't alone in that. Today on the road, his driver had been closely following the SUV he thought contained his niece and her confidants, when suddenly, a shot was fired at the SUV from a nearby Escalade. Shortly after, a window rolled down in the SUV, and they began firing back their own shots. It was only a minute later that a bullet whizzed into the side window of Bruno's own car, and the next thing he knew, there was a full-on shooting match between at least 4 of the cars on the road. Given that all the cars had thick tinted windows, including Bruno's own car, it was impossible to say who else had been involved. But one thing was clear. He wasn't the only one out for Olivia Johnson. Bruno would have made it out of the initial shootout just fine, but somehow one of the cars had their tire shot out, causing it to skid across the 3 lanes of traffic and taking out 8 other cars with it. Since Bruno had taken off his seatbelt in order to improve his aim when shooting, he ended up getting thrown to the other side of the car, smashing his head into the car's window and shattering the glass, which rained down on him, causing multiple lacerations on his body. Now, not only did he feel like an idiot when he found out Olivia hadn't even been there, but to make it worse, his own father knew how badly he had failed. Even though he was a grown man now, Bruno was just as scared of Jack Johnson as when he was 5 years old and got caught stealing an extra cookie from the pantry. His father had punished him harshly then, and he knew he would be punished harshly now. He read the last line of his father's email to him and shuddered. Return home immediately. He had no choice. As soon as the hospital was able to discharge him, Bruno would be on a flight back to New York. He couldn't tell what hurt more, the pounding in his head, or the idea of the punishment that awaited him at the Johnson mansion. Bruno clenched and unclenched his fists multiple times before typing back a response to his father. Copy that. He hit send before he could chicken out. Across the hall in Jason Goodwin's room, he sat upright in his own hospital bed, surrounded by his family's many minions. What the hell is wrong with all of you? His screams were so loud that there was no way he remained unheard by the nurses and doctors. Luckily for him, they were used to keeping patients' secrets. After all, it could be dangerous not to. You couldn't dispose of a little girl? Jason fumed as he looked at the faces of the men in front of him. He couldn't believe it. These men were trained thugs. Their entire lives revolved around taking out some of the most powerful and dangerous men around. And yet this teenager had outsmarted them. "You all disgust me," Jason spat out. "Sorry, boss, but she wasn't even in the car," one of the men spoke out. Even though this kid was technically their boss, he was still a kid, and being yelled at like this was humiliating. "Then you find her, and you kill her. Or kill yourselves at this point, I don't really care." Jason was growing impatient with these imbeciles. Why couldn't his family have access to real assassins like the Jorgensen or the Jones? Why did they have to deal with these lowbrow mobsters? "The thing is, boss, we hear Miss Johnson has returned to New York with Chris Jones." Another one of the men spoke, wringing his hands as he tried to reason with Jason. "As you know, Chris Jones has vast resources. It'll be hard to touch her as long as he's got his sights set on protecting her." "What? You think I don't know that?" Jason shrieked. His face was turning a shade of purple, he was so angry. "Do you think I'm an idiot?" The men quickly shook their heads no. "You're getting paid to do a job, so do it." They nodded their understanding, and Jason fell back onto his pillows, huffing. "Now leave. I can't stand to look at any of you anymore." The men shuffled out of the room, and Jason reached for his phone, pulling up an article that had just been released about Olivia's press conference from earlier that day. "I won't let you get away with what you did to me." Jason seethed at the tiny thumbnail photo of Olivia smiling at the conference. "You will pay for this." "Achoo!" Olivia let out a loud sneeze, stirring Polly from a nap. The husky dog got up to check on Olivia, who had just finished setting the dinner table. "Oh dear, I hope you didn't catch a cold from your travels." Victoria entered the dining room, carrying 2 plates of her famous chicken casserole and setting them down on the placement set for her and Olivia. "I feel fine," Olivia insisted, taking a seat at the table. "Well, you know that old saying, every time you sneeze, it means someone is thinking of you in that exact moment," Victoria teased, pulling out a chair and sitting at the table. "I really don't need anyone else thinking about me today," Olivia thought to herself. Chances were there were many people thinking of her, and none of them fondly. "This looks delicious, Mom," Olivia said, trying to change the subject. "Thank you. You know, I was thinking of making this as a dish for Christmas dinner." Victoria helped herself to a forkful of the casserole. "Christmas? We haven't even made it to Thanksgiving yet. Slow down." Olivia heaped a bite into her own mouth, savoring the casserole. The last time she'd sat down to a home-cooked meal from Victoria, it had been rudely interrupted by those shady journalists. She intended to savor this one. "Oh, I know, but this time of year the holidays just fly by. It'll be Christmas before you know it." Victoria took another bite. The two sat in silence for a moment as they chewed. Olivia took a sip of water, clearing her throat. "Mom?" She hesitated. Victoria looked up at Olivia, waiting for her daughter to continue. "I saw Cousin Jed when I was in Paris," Olivia began. Victoria put her fork down, steeling herself for whatever was coming next. She didn't have much contact with the Park family, and she knew whatever Jed had said to Olivia would be big. "He said he knows where Grandpa is. He said he could take us to see him." Olivia tried to read Victoria's face, but it was devoid of all emotion. She reached for her wine, taking a large gulp. "Don't you miss him, Mom?" "Of course I do," Victoria snapped, startling Olivia. She knew this was a touchy subject for Victoria, and she didn't want to push it. But she also knew how much it would mean to her mother to be reunited with her family. "I was thinking maybe we could go to Europe together to visit him." Victoria stared off into the middle distance for a moment. "Maybe," she answered finally, picking up her fork and cutting another bite of casserole. We'll discuss it at another time." Another moment of silence passed between the two of them. Building up the courage, Olivia spoke again. "Mom, are you ever going to marry Dad?" Victoria put her knife and fork down with a clang. "Olivia, honestly, what has gotten into you tonight?" Victoria glared at her daughter across the table. Feeling guilty, Olivia looked down at her lap. She hadn't meant to upset her mother. She just wanted to know. Victoria sighed. She pushed her chair from the table and got up, walking around to crouch by Olivia's side. "Listen, I am just so happy to have you back at home. All I want is to help you through the last year of high school and watch you graduate. I want to see you get into the college of your choice and help you move into your new dorm. Those are my only priorities right now, okay?" Victoria tipped Olivia's chin so that she was facing her mother, who smiled down at her. "Okay," Olivia responded. "Oh shoot, I completely forgot I was going to pick up a dessert for you on my way home." Victoria stood up. "I'll just run out and get it out now." "I can go with you." Olivia started to stand, but Victoria put a hand on her shoulder, holding her in place. "No need. I'll just be right back." Victoria smiled reassuringly at Olivia, but she knew her mom was still upset about their earlier conversation. "Okay, well, hurry back," Olivia called to Victoria, who was already in the hallway now, putting on her coat. "I will," Victoria shouted from the other room as she exited, closing the door behind her. Olivia sat there for a moment, regretting her choice of conversation. Polly got up from her spot at the end of the table to check on Olivia. "I'm fine, girl. Don't worry." Olivia patted the dog's head. She pulled out her phone then, busying herself with work. She began composing a group text to Francis and Sam about the game launch. If she couldn't make things right within her family, at least she could distract herself by making this a perfect game release. Across the park at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Monica sat at the side of Rachel's bed as they finished watching Olivia's press conference on TV. Monica had already seen the crowd of reporters gathering outside the hospital from the window of the room they were in. After watching what Olivia had said during the conference, they now understood why they were there. Rachel hissed, grabbing the remote and slamming the off button so that the screen instantly went black. "Mommy, what do we do now?" Monica whined. They both knew Olivia had thrown their allegations into question. The reporters out there would be clamoring for the truth about the fire, and thanks to Olivia, they were one step closer to the real truth. "Mommy," Monica continued, impatiently waiting for her mother to form a solution to their problem. "Calm down," Rachel sniped. She needed quiet to come up with a plan, but as of now, her mind drew a blank. She needed Monica to stay calm so that she could stay calm. Right now, all Rachel could think of to do is panic. "We'll leave tonight. After the press has mostly gone home, we'll sneak out the back." Rachel nodded in determination. "But Mommy, if we leave early, then we'll be proving Olivia right that her injuries were not so severe," Monica countered. Rachel waved a hand, dismissing her daughter. "They'll prove that if we stay. At least this way, we can avoid a public appearance." Monica let the plan sink in. She wasn't sure if it was the best plan, but she didn't have an alternative to offer. "And then what?" Monica sounded genuinely scared now. Rachel extended a hand to comfort her daughter, running it gently through her hair. "Then we ask your grandfather for help. He'll know how to make Olivia pay." Well, well, well. Olivia sipped an early morning coffee in a robe in front of her computer. Olivia grinned with satisfaction at the headline on her computer screen. "Johnson burn victims aren't too burned to flee hospital," it read in big black font. The story featured security camera stills of Rachel and Monica attempting to look incognito with sunglasses in their coats and hoods pulled up as they left the burn ward and got into a car. Part of one photo showed a zoomed-in circle on their hands. Poorly applied bandages hung loosely to reveal suspiciously healed skin underneath. Either Rachel underestimated the press's ability to spot them, or she really overestimated her ability to hide. Olivia shook her head, amused. The evidence proved Olivia right. Rachel and Monica were faking being burn victims. And Rachel and Monica couldn't have made it easier. They practically handed these photos right to the papers. Olivia quickly scanned over the comments people wrote. Up to this point, public opinion had been steered in a completely one-sided direction, to blame her father for the fire, and all sympathy directed at Rachel and Monica. From the look of the comments that morning, public opinion appeared to swing in the complete opposite direction. What frauds! I can't believe we actually felt sorry for them. These actresses should leave New York and go back to Hollywood where they belong. I always thought this story seemed suspicious. I never liked Rachel or Monica. I've had worse burns after eating Pop-Tarts out of the toaster too soon. I'd divorce you too. Olivia laughed as she saw Tyra Banks. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Jiff came up over and over again. Okay, that's enough fun for now. Olivia sighed and closed the website. Backed taking care of business. She checked her phone. It was still early. She had gotten up early in anticipation of how her game's beta testing would go. That was the main reason she was sitting here, waiting and watching her computer. Finally, an alarm went off on her phone, and she eagerly logged in with her administrator credentials. Olivia's eyes widened and she grinned. 1,000 beta accounts were created in under a minute after they became available. Olivia knew that normally, a single-player game like this wouldn't even do beta testing the way online multiplayer games would. But Olivia really believed in this game's unique storyline. She hoped that if they could allow a limited number of select influential users to experience the game before it was open to the public, they could drum up positive word of mouth and buzz about the game to spread in time for the actual release on January 1st. So far, her plan appeared to be paying off. Olivia scanned forums to monitor discussions about the beta. Since the limited user capacity had been used up so fast, Olivia saw lots of complaints online from people who failed to get an account. It was a good sign that there was a high demand and that people saw it as very exclusive. Olivia smiled to herself. Sorry, Dickens Chickens 94, but you'll just have to wait to purchase in person on January 1st. She wanted to know how users were reacting to playing the game so far, and to her delight, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. From the graphics to the storyline, everyone loved it. Some users even had favorite levels already. Soon, large gaming forums were plastered with screenshots of her game. Popular gaming video channels were already announcing their praise to their millions of followers. This was working exactly as Olivia hoped. Olivia sighed as she clicked over to some complaints. A decent number of people were upset that the game would only be available for in-person purchase starting January 1st. There would definitely be long lines out the door, with all of the demand and popularity swirling around the game. Olivia knew that they would grumble about this, but it was really only adding to the hype. Right on schedule, Confluence made an announcement that really got everyone talking. The game was a limited edition. Olivia pored over forums and blogs and liked what she saw. Everyone was talking about her game. Someone declared that the game was the main character of the internet today. Soon, people started to discuss the creative team behind the game. Olivia's name started trending on social media. The public knew that Olivia was the eldest daughter of the Johnson family, and quickly had a field day by comparing Olivia to the internet's villain of the day, her half-sister Monica. It was too good of a coincidence to pass up. It was impossible to keep up with all the commentary on social media. Olivia Johnson emerges as the queen of gaming on the same day that her sister, Monica Johnson, gets outed as an arsonist fraud. Imagine what it's like at that house right now. #Johnson vs. Johnson. Olivia saw many side-by-side photos of her own professional headshot contrasted next to the screenshot of Monica sneaking out of the hospital. Someone even turned it into the Drake Hotline Bling meme. It showed Drake leaning away with his hand up, expressing his distaste at the picture of Monica, while the next panel showed him smiling at the picture of Olivia. Poor Monica, Olivia thought sarcastically. I'm sure she's just loving this right now. Maybe she'll think twice next time she wants to fake a fire and try to let Dad take the blame. Olivia laughed as the memes poured in. Ah! Screamed Monica. She sat on the floor and her eyes were red and swollen from wailing and crying. The room around her was in shambles. Clothes, bags, jewelry, shoes, and all kinds of things littered the floor like a storm had blown through. Everything that could be knocked over or thrown against a wall had been thoroughly destroyed. Clearly, Monica enjoyed the news and online discourse about as much as Olivia predicted. Monica, open the door. Do you hear me? Rachel knocked at the door with increasing desperation. Monica, you're scaring me. Talk to me. Monica looked back at her phone and saw the Drake meme. There was Olivia, looking perfect and professional as always, right next to the worst photo of Monica's life. The contrast sent her into a rage again. Oh, why me? Monica screeched. Monica, you have to open this door. Rachel banged harder on the door. Her heart was breaking to hear such anguish from her daughter. Go away! Monica wailed. She picked up a framed photo on the floor and threw it at the door. It crashed against the heavy door and fell to the floor with a loud clang. I don't want to see you or anyone else. Leave me alone. Rachel couldn't bear to hear Monica so upset. Monica, please talk to me. Mommy's here. Tell me what it is I can do. Whatever you want, I'll make it right. Oh! Monica shrieked in response. She hugged her knees and cried loudly. Tears streaked her face and her nose ran. How will I ever show my face again? I will never live it down. The entire world hates me. Monica sobbed. Monica, listen to me. Rachel called through the door. She took a deep breath and racked her brain for any way she could possibly comfort her distraught daughter. Her eyes lit up with an idea. Don't worry, sweetie Jack, your grandfather. He won't let Olivia get away with this, you'll see. Rachel braced herself for more screams through the door, but instead there was silence. Monica sniffed and mulled over Rachel's words. Rachel waited on pins and needles, when at last the door finally cracked open. Monica stuck only half of her face out. Grandfather really gave it to me on Olivia's behalf. He really knows how to dole out punishment. Yes, Rachel nodded, encouraged that Monica at least had stopped screaming and opened the door at all. She was afraid with one wrong move, the screaming and throwing things might start back up again. Your grandfather will not be pleased that Olivia is in his way. He will definitely not take that sitting down. Really? Monica sniffed and wiped her eyes with her hands. Her under eyes and cheeks were smeared with running mascara and eyeliner. She looked like a complete mess. Rachel dug into her pocket and pulled out a tissue. She dabbed at the black smears all over Monica's face. It barely helped at all. There, it's something. You have such a pretty face. Monica smiled back weakly, her face still very messy. Rachel reached out her hand and pulled Monica into a hug. I promise everything will work out. This isn't your fault. Monica buried her head in Rachel's shoulder and shook for more loud sobbing. What are we going to do? This is a nightmare. It's the worst thing in my entire life. I know, honey, but it's going to be all right. Rachel rubbed her hand on Monica's back to console her. We just have to be patient. We will successfully get rid of Olivia, and your father will come back, and everything will work out. I can send you to study abroad. No one knows you over there, and you'll have a completely fresh start. Do some shopping, go out, host some parties, take your mind off things. You'll love it. Who knows? This might turn into the best thing to happen to you. No, it won't. Monica mumbled dismissively. Okay, maybe not the best, but it'll be good. Rachel stroked Monica's hair. After you spend a while abroad, by the time you come back, maybe in a few years, no one will remember any of this. It'll be old news that no one even talks about ever again. It works like a charm, trust me. Monica looked up at Rachel, tears still in her eyes, but with a glint of hope. You think so? Of course. Rachel nodded. She affectionately put her hands on both of Monica's cheeks. I would never lie to you. Don't cry, it will all be okay. Okay. Monica nodded and wiped her eyes. I still want Olivia to die a slow, painful death. Monica gritted her teeth and squeezed her hands into fists. Don't worry. Rachel patted Monica's head. Once your grandfather gets involved, Olivia's days will be numbered. It will be especially torturous for her to make up for what you've been through. Monica's mouth lifted into an evil smile. Meanwhile, Olivia, of course, had no idea of what Rachel and Monica were plotting. She was consumed with reviewing the official early feedback results about the beta test. Olivia gathered all of the information and survey data. She had to admit, it was a little overwhelming going through it all. She organized it as best as she could and went through each evaluation one by one. She tracked responses and picked out useful pieces that she wanted to record and take back to the team. Some users raised good questions and concerns, and she was excited that she had ideas for how to address them. Olivia felt really good about the results. Olivia was just about to log out and heaved a sigh of relief when she heard a notification that she had a new message. Curious, she checked it and saw it was a message from Francis. Have you seen this? He asked, and included a link to a popular gaming website that she had not checked on throughout her research that day. Olivia clicked on the link and saw it was a video of an interview. She immediately recognized the person being interviewed as a highly well-known American gaming tycoon who went by the name Chili Willow Man. The video already had millions of views. She hit play. Olivia quickly realized that Chili Willow Man was talking about their game. Of course he's talking about it. Everyone else on the internet is. Olivia thought proudly. As Olivia listened, her face fell as she realized Chili Willow Man was airing one criticism after another. He was not impressed at all. Don't waste your time or money when January 1st rolls around, he said. Olivia's eyes widened in horror as the number of views and likes on the video climbed in real time. This was a disaster. Another message notification dinged and Olivia opened it. What should we do? Francis typed. Olivia bit her lip. Chili Willow Man might be one of the most influential game reviewers out there, but Olivia had been up against impossible odds before. Even if she didn't have the answer right now, she would figure out how to fix this. Besides, the entire rest of the year depended on it. Leave it to me, Olivia typed back. The rest of the fall term at the Marshall School flew by in the blink of an eye. Olivia focused on improving the game and steering its reputation in the right direction in time for the big release in January. The hustle and bustle of juggling extracurriculars, the holidays, and exams in December had everyone stressed, but they all made it to the winter break finish line. Olivia at last enjoyed a brief window to relax before the ramp-up to the game launch. But just when she thought her life might actually slow down for just a second, she got a call on Christmas Eve. It was Principal Yan from the Marshall School. Olivia summoned the will to go on one more errand the day before Christmas and went to the school to meet with Principal Yan. Some of the student organizations had last-minute end-of-the-year meetings and projects before the official holiday, so they were still on campus. Olivia made her way past them in the halls as she made her way to Principal Yan's office. And as she walked, she felt their eyes on her. She was getting used to this kind of attention, and how it was often unclear whether the stares and whispers came from admiration or disdain. She could read their minds to find out, But in these situations, when she needed to be somewhere, it was best to just ignore them and keep walking. Besides, I'm technically on vacation, and I deserve a break from knowing what anybody thinks of me. Olivia arrived at Principal Yan's office and knocked on the door. She poked her head in. Principal Yan? It's Olivia Johnson. Principal Yan was on the phone, but smiled at Olivia and held up one finger to say they would be just another minute. He waved her in and motioned at a chair across from his desk for her to have a seat. He wrapped up his call and hung up the phone, then directed his full attention at Olivia. Sorry about that. Last-minute holiday arrangements. Principal Yan shook his head apologetically. Thank you so much for coming in during your vacation. Sure thing, Olivia smiled. I'd much rather be at home, but here I am, she thought. I'm a workaholic and I need help. Good. First off, big congratulations to you. Principal Yan beamed. Olivia was stunned into silence for a moment. Thank you? Congratulations for winning the Miss Marshall school title for the second year. Principal Yan clarified. Oh, right, yes, I did. Thank you so much. Olivia nodded sheepishly. I completely forgot that even happened. I've been so focused on getting the game in shape for launch next week and exams, my brain just erased it. This is why I need a vacation. Principal Yan checked his watch. Well, we should probably get going. We only have to stop at the orphanage this time. We're not doing the middle school this year, so that's a relief. Olivia's eyes widened. In all the hectic goings-on, she had also completely forgotten about her previous obligation to visit the less fortunate children on Christmas Eve. Thank goodness I didn't just wear yoga pants and a hoodie to this meeting. Yes, that's good news. We should get going, she said, as if she had planned for it all along. She told the truth when she said not visiting the middle school was good news. The memory of last year's event flashed through her mind when she had gone to visit the middle school on behalf of the Marshall School, and they begged her to put on one of their uniforms. It was way too small for her, and the children fought over who she should hang out with and ended up playing tug-of-war with her arms. It was a miserable memory. After you, Principal Yan said as he put on his coat, picked up his briefcase, and gestured for Olivia to lead the way out of his office. By the way, if you happen to know... Principal Yan looked down at the floor awkwardly. Olivia looked at Principal Yan, bewildered as to what he might ask. Just hurry up and spit it out. What else did I forget in the chaos? How has your friend Millie been doing recently? Principal Yan asked, still looking at the floor, and trying as hard as he could to not seem overly interested in the answer. Olivia relaxed, relieved that this was about Millie and not about some major scheduling lapse on her part. She started walking back to the front of the school. She's doing pretty well. Olivia smiled knowingly. She lives with Lena now. I think it's good for them. They like taking care of each other. Olivia was amused to see Principal Yan straining to seem nonchalant when asking a question about Millie. That's nice to hear, Principal Yan said with a smile. Millie always takes on a lot, so it's nice to hear she's got someone else around her to support her and she's not on her own. I would say the same for any student, of course, but, you know. Right, of course. Olivia nodded. The fact that Millie was actually Principal Yan's daughter was pretty much an open secret at this point. He seemed to be feeling out whether she knew. Principal Yan took a breath. Millie told me, when she went to Paris, we talked. She's a nice kid, since you're friends. He seemed nervous. Olivia felt funny that he was clumsily confiding in her. She decided to make it a little easier on him. Yeah, Millie is very smart. Maybe even the smartest person I know. Olivia really did have a special fondness for how smart and clever Millie was, and her sharp sense of humor. In competitive circles like the ones Olivia ran in, smart people were often conceited and thought too highly of themselves. But Millie wasn't like that at all. Quite the opposite. Millie was really easy to get along with, and Olivia was grateful to have her as a friend. Yes, Principal Yan sighed. lost in thought as they walked through campus. Olivia considered how impressive it was that Millie was as well adjusted as she was at 17 years old. She had experienced a rough childhood and had to survive a lot more than most people, and at an age when she should have been happy and carefree. Not everyone could overcome that sort of thing and remained a kind, loyal person, but Millie was living proof that it could be done. Principal Yan and Olivia reached the parking lot where a car waited to take them to the orphanage. They climbed into the car and headed straight to the orphanage downtown. When they arrived, the children at the orphanage remembered Olivia from the previous year and were excited to see her. Olivia didn't have to wear a ridiculous costume this time either, and that made the experience much more enjoyable. Only one child hung around Olivia with more energy than the others, but rather than get annoyed, Olivia found herself having fun being playful with the little kid. Principal Yan and Olivia presented the orphanage director with an oversized check, and they posed for a photo together. Olivia had not been excited to spend time on this unexpected obligation, but now that she was here, she was reminded of how good it felt to participate in community service, especially around the holidays. It was a good change of pace from all of her other ambitious ventures lately. Olivia heard a group of children laughing, and she turned to see a volunteer entertaining the children, wearing the same costume she had to wear last year. She couldn't help but laugh. It was like seeing herself from the past. Thinking back on that time made her thoughts drift to general memories of Christmas last year, particularly with Chris. Back then, he was still a senior at school, and we spent a lot of time together. Olivia shook her head and snapped back into the present. So much had changed since then. I don't even like thinking about him right now. She focused back on the children and tried to stay present. The last thing she wanted was to be dwelling on thoughts of Chris. Principal Yan made his way over to Olivia. "Time to head back. Everyone say goodbye to Miss Olivia," he said to the children. They groaned that she had to go. Olivia waved goodbye to the children, and a few of them hugged her before she walked out to the car. Olivia leaned against the window and watched the iconic lights of New York City at Christmas time pass by. She couldn't help remember being under lights like that last year with Chris. It was one of the most romantic settings she had ever experienced. She felt warm looking at the lights on Christmas Eve, the quiet street lights under softly falling snow. Snow? Olivia sat up and squinted out the window to get a better look. Sure enough, fat white snowflakes gently drifted down and started to blanket the streets. "It's snowing!" she exclaimed, excited. "Look at that, it is snowing." Principal Yan smiled as he looked out the window. "It's the first snowfall in New York of the year." "When we were in Paris, it was so cold that we hoped it might snow, but it never did," Olivia reminisced. She gently touched the window as she remembered Paris. The cold weather made it very cozy indoors. They had been so unprepared for the chilly temperatures when they arrived, and Chris gave her a sweater to keep warm. It had smelled like him. Wait a second. I never gave that sweater back. I forgot to give it back to him, and it's been in my closet all these months. Olivia blushed, thinking about what to do about it now. I should give it back as soon as possible. That's what I should do. But do I have to? I'll worry about it later. He hasn't asked about it, so it's not like he's noticed anyway. Olivia wrapped her coat around herself more tightly and watched the beautiful New York City snowfall through the frosty window. The car brought them back to the Marshall School. Olivia chatted with Principal Yan a little longer and then headed home. As soon as she walked in, she went straight to her closet and dug out the sweater that Chris had lent her in Paris. She already washed it back when she first unpacked from Paris, but she hesitantly brought it to her face out of curiosity. She breathed in and closed her eyes. It still faintly smelled like Chris. Clean sandalwood, mixed with all the scent of her own laundry detergent. The smell entered her nose and made her heart flutter and her brain light up. She looked down at the sweater in her hands, and the warm feelings in her stomach turned to panic. I should not be feeling this way. What am I doing? Sniffing his sweater like a creep? Olivia put the sweater down and peeked outside the window of the falling snow. She looked back at the sweater like a ghost haunting her. She made up her mind. Olivia picked up her phone and dialed Millie. Hey, why don't we get together for Christmas tomorrow? You're like the busiest woman alive right now, and you want to get together on Christmas? Millie teased. Sure, why not? Your game releases in a week. I better get whatever time I can with you. Take advantage of your last chance to have some fun. Great. Call everyone and we'll have a Christmas party, Olivia said cheerily. When you say everyone, do you mean everyone? Millie asked pointedly. Like, I don't know, including someone whose name rhymes with Miss Bones? Olivia blushed hard enough for Millie to sense it over the phone. Olivia glanced back at Chris's sweater and squeezed her eyes shut in shame. Yeah, you could invite him too. He's one of our friends. It would be weird not to, right? Olivia feigned a casual voice. Millie burst out laughing. Okay, I'll include him among our friends in a totally casual, not weird way. I don't know what's going on between you two, but tell me how to help. Whatever it is, I don't need to know the details. You point and I'll shoot. I can stand to watch you guys keep pretending this isn't happening. Really? Olivia cringed. I'm not nearly as subtle as I thought. Come on, anybody with a brain cell can tell. And Chris has been the biggest doofus, too. You two need help. Millie teased. Don't worry, because Dr. Millie is on the case. You sound very experienced. Olivia laughed. Thanks. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, you'll see me tomorrow, all right. And so will Chris. Millie sang and made sexy saxophone noises with her mouth. Olivia laughed, but her stomach was still in knots. Am I excited to see Chris? Or am I dreading it?